Yo, what is up, Kings? I hope all is well. I wanted to do kind of a more somber video, this recording. I actually did record this already, but I recorded it as a car ride rant, and I find that I have the time to discuss it again, so, I don't love doing that. But if I have to do that sometimes, it is what it is. So what I'm about to tell you is a large reason why I have not been able to post videos as frequently as I would like. I've been busy taking care of this. But suffice it to say, there was someone that my father, it was his woman, for lack of a better way of saying it without getting too detailed into it. She passed away of cancer suddenly. And when somebody that you know that closely, regardless of how close I was personally with this individual or not, I don't, it does matter, but I think kind of the threshold is knowing the person like directly, and having some sort of personal tie, whether it's somebody in your family. That personal connection, I think, is the threshold. And like I said, obviously, how close you were with that person or not makes a difference. But it really causes you to think about life and what you believe and things like that. So for me personally, you guys know, those of you guys who watch my videos regularly, you guys know that I'm an Orthodox Christian. And I think for most Christians, definitely Orthodox Christians, just because of how we pray, and just kind of our extended worldview, because we are Orthodox Christians, we kind of, just speaking for myself, but I think Orthodox Christians as a whole, by and large, believe this as well. I know I've heard Andrew Wilson say the same thing. Take on the mindset of, we are so lucky to be here. We are blessed that God granted us the ability to live a life, any sort of life at all. We are so incredibly lucky. And extended from that means that every single day you get is a blessing. And I think having that mindset really does help day to day. I think it helps motivate you to get the most out of life, to be motivated and ambitious and maybe not stress and sweat the small things. But so that's that. That's what I believe. But there's a lot of people, including my father, and this is something that I've had to talk with him about, who don't have that mindset as much. And by the way, being an Orthodox Christian, I myself, and I wasn't always this way, even when I pray in terms of like, the word wouldn't be affirmations, it would be like, if it's your will to do so. Like when this individual was dying of cancer that I knew really well, even though I hadn't seen her for a few years, but she was, close in my family, I was praying in terms of, if it is your will, God, if it is your choice to bless her by extending her life, that's how I pray. I don't pray for gifts. I don't pray for things to be bestowed on me just because. I very much take the mindset of, it is God's choice. And so if God decides in God's will to do so, then great. And again, I think that does matter. And so people who don't necessarily, I forget what the word is called. I remember I heard Andrew Wilson talk about this when he was asked, he was debating somebody about willing things and vibes and, positive mindset, willing affirmations. It was a recent one he was on, and he was discussing that, how he doesn't really do that, and he shared how he prays. And so I think a lot of people who don't have that mindset, when they are faced with something like this, they kind of take the mindset of like, it's not fair. It's not right. Why did you take this individual from me? Why they didn't deserve it? And the reality is, again, if you're a Christian, you realize that, again, stemming from what I already said at the beginning of the video, we are lucky to be here. It is God's decision whether to grant us another day or not. It is God's decision to turn out the light or not. And so, on top of that, we are all sinners. Some of us more than others, but we are all sinners. We are saved through God and by God's love. Not, as an Orthodox Christian, I don't believe that it's only that, but that is a big part of it. But we are all sinners. And because of our sin, because of the sin of mankind, the burden that we have to bear as human beings is death. And it's a tough thing to wrap your mind around, but I actually think that once you're able to, it actually makes dealing with death a lot easier. Especially when it comes to other individuals, because you realize that you have no choice in the matter. We all deserve, death, the ultimate price. We're not all stainless. None of us are stainless. And one day, the chickens or whatever the fuck will come home to roost. But the other thing that so that's one thing, and that's something that I've had to experience with some family members of mine, especially my father, and just kind of really delving into this. But I think death also, when you see it, it really just reminds you, especially cancer, just how, or like some tragic accident, just how quickly things can change. How one moment an individual can be here and the next moment they're gone. And they are not coming back. And so it really forces you to really reflect and kind of prioritize things and, realize the importance of spending time with loved ones and people who actually give a shit about you, rather than caring about, what people think about you at work or at school or whatever, situation that you shouldn't care about that shit. You should only care about people that you respect. And of course, depending on, if it's a work context, yes, you want the respect of your peers to some degree, and especially your superiors and things like that. But the ultimate opinion that matters is God's opinion, your opinion of yourself, and, your loved ones, the ones that you respect around you. And so, death just really, it puts into focus the need to really not, as I mentioned earlier, not sweat the small stuff, because our life here is so incredibly short. It is so incredibly short. And so, living life as full as you can without some of the, common stressors that a lot of people go through is really the challenge. And finding a way to move past that and just realize that it's really not that fucking big of a deal. And I always ask myself, like, if I were to die tomorrow, or if I were told by a doctor that I was going to die tomorrow, that I had one day left, or God told me that I was going to die tomorrow, would I give a shit about this? Would I think twice about this? No. Now, it doesn't mean that that thought means that you shouldn't care about anything, or at least maybe consider it a little bit. Sometimes there is some truth to what people say, but you shouldn't care about it as much as you do. A lot of people really dwell on these things perseverously and just really cannot let it go, and they allow so much room in their head for these non-important things. And I'm guilty of that too. I've gotten better with that, but I'm guilty of that too. And so That's something that's a strategy that I use when I'm trying to motivate myself, when I'm, stressed about something, and I can feel it growing in my head, and it taking up some headspace, is like, if something tragic were to be, bestowed on me, would it really make a bit of a difference to me? Yes or no? Most of the time, the answer is no. The only thing that really would matter if you were told that you're going to die tomorrow, is your loved ones. Do you have a relationship? Did you tell them you love them? When's the last time you saw them? When is the last time you guys communicated with them? And again, I'm not perfect. I've been forced to look in the mirror about this. My dad, I hadn't talked to him in multiple years, even though we were as close could be when I was growing up. So, obviously there's some other aspects to this that are beyond our control. Other people make decisions too. It's not just you. God's will does take precedence, and I do believe that things happen for a reason, and so sometimes things are really out of your control, and sometimes, yeah, maybe it was meant to be for you to not have a relationship with somebody for X amount of years so that you could build a stronger one down the line, but still, in the moment, it's worth asking yourself, like, if you're upset or annoyed with somebody, especially a loved one, like, if I were to die tomorrow, would I want this to be the reason that I didn't tell them I love them or something like that? Most of the time, the answer is no. So, and quite frankly, you shouldn't even be considering all the meta stuff. Like, it's beyond our control. All you can control is your attitude, how you view things, and things like that. And so, I just really want to encourage you guys, because I'm sure there's some of you guys who will watch this video who have experienced something like this, and it's rough. It really does make you reflect on a lot of important things and a lot of important issues. Getting right with God, asking yourself what you truly believe, what you want out of life, who you want in your life. All of these massively important questions. I think in today's day and age, there's just so many people that are living so aimlessly, so purposelessness, or what would it be? Lacking so much purpose. They have none, and it's really quite tragic, So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of reflect on that. It is kind of somber, but I think I do believe that it matters. Most of the time we talk about interpersonal relationships and politics on this channel, but I don't mind delving into, spiritual and kind of, and I guess this would be interpersonal, but human experience type topics. And death is very much a human experience type topic. Like, guys, I'm telling you, and a lot of you guys have probably seen this, cancer is brutal. Like, it ravages the system. It is killing your body, and death is not a pretty thing. Maybe in like a certain regard it is, but mostly, like, just from like a looking at it head on, no, it's not a very pretty thing, But also, the last thing I want to say is, I think it's important to try and celebrate the life that somebody had and try and focus on that. I think that helps a lot of people get through things, rather than, really sinking into the despair and the sadness and the loneliness. Like, those things are natural, but if you can couple it with really valuing, cherishing, and promoting in your mind and in your application day to day, the positive things with that relationship, with that person, in celebration of their life, I think that really helps. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys are all doing well. Like, comment, you guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy, Willow. In fact, our feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, kings. See you guys next time. Christ is king. Peace.